Hello, and thank you for joining us again here at the Uncharted podcast, your home for nonprofit data, donor management tools and updates, and financial integrations. My name is Jeremy, and as always, I am joined by the lovely Summer. Summer, how are you today?
I'm good, but you know what? I'm a little sad because I thought we were out of this winter.
Yeah.
And we're getting snow again.
Right? So we're getting, for our listeners, we're both in Wisconsin. We got like 2 feet of snow. And I was very Wisconsin there, 2 feet of snow.
Yeah.
When I said that a couple of weeks ago, and the big pile next to the end of my driveway is almost gone. But now we're supposed to get some more. And
yeah, super weird. We were outside literally playing in the yard in almost 70-degree weather with a snow pile next to us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%. Actually, for my son, we drove to Fort Wayne, Indiana. First of all, 0 stars, do not recommend. But we got there for like an hour. It was 80 degrees. And I'm like, I'm going outside. I don't care what you guys are doing. Like, I'm going to go sit on the patio and do whatever. And then within an hour, a like thunderstorm band came through and tornado watches and everything. And the next day it was 30. And I was like,
oh my gosh.
Thank you, Mother Nature.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, just wild.
Yep, wild times. Then, before we get into what is our last run through of Givebutter stuff, wanted to go through, I've been waiting for this one, for our DonorPerfect calendar again, and we have the link for this out there. And we're recording in early April, but this one is from March 26th, and I couldn't pass this one. The tip of the day is the key to accurate, diligent data reconciliation is a fundraising and accounting team working hand in hand. Ooh, yes. High five over the video. Yeah. Okay. No truer words ever spoken.
I'd save that one. I like that.
Yeah. And I think we've talked about that several times, is like the collaboration that is required in all facets of the organization is uber important for good data management, and then financial management, and just leadership, and just general accessibility and understanding of where the organization's data is at. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. So I think if you remember, and maybe you'll have to correct me on these if I get through these. First time we went through Givebutter, we did the setup and kind of just bones of things getting in place. Then last time we dug a little bit more into setting up a campaign and like uploading donor data and some transactional things. And now we really want to get into, okay, we have a campaign in place. And there's some data out there, and I have a test one. I also had AI help me put in just some historical transactional data to look at reporting. So now we want to look at that, the reporting capabilities, and then also like how, this is my time to shine, hopefully, if I've ever shown, is like, then how does this get in your financial software, and how do you take a look at that? So,
absolutely. And
cool.
You shine bright like a diamond.
Huh? Say that again?
So you shine bright like a diamond.
Shine bright like a diamond. Ooh, that'll be the first and only time anyone's ever told me that. All right, cool. I'm going to, again, share screen. We'll try to talk through all this and maybe even be better about that. Hello, faithful listeners and or viewers. Just wanted to jump in here before we move on with this segment and just let you know that we had a snafu or screen sharing on our recording. Did not record this time. Still trying to figure out why. So apologies for that. I think we do a pretty good job of kind of talking through this. And if you're on the podcast, this makes no bearings to you whatsoever. But if you are watching this live on our YouTube channel, please note that will not be out there and shared, as it just didn't work this time, so apologies, but let's dive into it and move forward, and great information here nonetheless. So you'll be happy to know that we have reached our goal with our campaign with my test data that I put in there. Go us. But, okay, so this is just kind of general, and I really want to kind of dig into the transactions here, right? So let's bring those up. So Jeremy Van Grohl is a really good sponsor or constituent of our organization. But you can see kind of just threw in test data for this, and just to kind of talk through that process. Okay, so transaction data, I made 50 lines of information. And again, using AI help, it was like, hey, here's our list of donors. We need to make sure that we have the right contact ID in for each of them, and then fill in some test data. And like anything else, there is a template that they provide, right, with things out there. I also liked, and maybe I should bring that up. maybe not, but if you look at it, it's really good. It has good labels on it. It's like, hey, these green fields are required, and there's like 8 of them, but I think there's 35 or 35 or 40 total fields that you can fill in. And all of them, I think like the 35 fields, right, it's a little extraneous, but the required ones, good, right? Like what's the payment method? What's the amount? Who's the donor? What's the date? How do they pay? Right? All the important things that you're going to need at the very least to have some set of data that is usable overall.
Right. And then just a reminder that your soft credits and your recurring transactions would be separate imports.
Separate imports, meaning they should be on a separate line item.
Meaning there are separate import functionalities specific for soft credits and recurring gifts.
Got it. Yep. And remind us what soft credits are one more time.
Yes. So a soft credit is essentially recognition for a gift, but not like actually counting as revenue, right? So like donor advised funds, super common. John and Jane Doe donor advised fund gave $1,000. We would soft credit John and Jane Doe for that, so that when we're working with them on the fundraising level, we can see that their DAF has given.
Right. Same thing with like matching funds for organizations, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Appreciate that. We talked about this a little bit last time. You kind of have this internal heart button that you can use if things like there are automatic acknowledgments, and we're not getting into like automatic workflows a lot. It's really Boolean logic, like, hey, this was received. If 1 hour later, send this email. So a lot of the other things that you could build there that we just not going to dig deep into. But I do like that, right? That you can have some internal, did we talk about this? Did we acknowledge it? Have we, whatever you want to use this for, have we sent information to our financial group? Whatever that is, that you can kind of check mark these really easily on the front page. Then, so the information is in here. And then thinking about using this information is really like you can then export this information however you would like, right? And typically I'm a data guy too. I want a download of all the data of every single point that's out there, every single line, and let me use it. Not, hey, here's an internal summary of it. So I like that aspect here, is that you really have everything. You can put in all sorts of filters around dates and amounts and all of these things in the header here. Frequency, status, all sorts of filters of ways that you can do that. But I would much rather dump into Excel and do that myself than do it here. I just want all the data. So I like that. One thing I thought that was a little bit underwhelming is I do like to have like a reporting module or tab, right? Yes. Versus you kind of going to the transaction data and doing that. Some kind of options that are out there is like, here's all transactions for last month, or campaign specific reports or things that are out there. So while the functionality of those things all appear to be good here, I do appreciate having that kind of reporting tab with options that are out there that you can just click on and run with.
Yeah, and one kind of workaround for that too. So I think last episode we were talking about using the custom fields to maybe segment things for your finance department. For example, grants or restricted or something of that nature. So you could build your report right here, and then you can save it as a segment. So if you go up to, I think where it says you see showing 52 results, it kind of has those dots and plus sign. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So click on that. So I think you would be able to put all your filters in and then create a segment. So it's kind of a workaround where it's not really like a reporting module per se, but it's more of a quick way to access that instead of building it every single time. So you could do a segment for grants or a segment for a specific campaign or something of that nature.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. One other very picky thing is like if you run this information and export it, it just doesn't export right away. It sends you an email saying your export's ready. All right. Not extremely inconvenient, but like, why can't you just have it download here versus me? I'm going to go over to email and then click on it and it comes out, whatever.
Again, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that either.
Yeah, I'm being nitpicky there, but all good. Cool. Then I kind of want to get to the financial stuff. Anything else on the transactional reporting side that you want to talk into before I kind of put on my accountant hat?
No, I think the main thing I just wanted to annotate was the segmenting option. So
yeah, love it. Okay. So then I'm going to jump into finance. So like we've talked before, our organization only uses QuickBooks Online, and good news is they have an integration with that. And again, it is the 10,000 pound elephant in the accounting world is QuickBooks Online. Overall, does a decent job of integrating with many different tools, pretty standard API for those things. But I will not say like I looked and see all these other tools that they may integrate with or not. But they do have in your settings and your integrations information, they do have all of the regular options that they integrate with. And there's 9 or so, which doesn't feel like a lot. And I do believe that QuickBooks is the only like accounting software that's listed in here.
Yeah, a lot of people use like the Zapier because Zapier connects to like everything. So it's kind of that third party connector. And then you can send a request too. So I'm wondering maybe how quickly they would approve a request if you wanted to do either another third party connector or just maybe directly to the app.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. And I agree. We use Zapier internally as well. That is good. It's also like you don't have to be a code genius to figure things out in Zapier. And their kind of internal AI integration has been better too. Is like, hey, I want to do this. Help me do that. So that's a good call. So I did connect QuickBooks in here and going to just take a look at that for all our finance professionals out there. So you can see right away, it has a list of transactions that are out here and it's filtered automatically on ones that are ready to sync. So I'm going to take a step back and go to settings and talk through these options and why I like or dislike them. First one out here is putting things in as sales receipts. So I like this option, right? That you show when it's out there that you either have an invoice that you post in QuickBooks or a sales receipt. And sales receipt means that the money has been received already. If you put that as an invoice, then you have to go in on the back end and then put a receipt of those funds and do that part in there. So not my favorite to do invoicing because it just adds steps in this overall. So just tidbit there. Then also you can have refunds syncing or not. I usually a no on that one. I want to look at that and just make sure. I would have to see how it flows through, but usually if there are refunds, I want to look, make sure that I can tie it to the right thing and that'll be out there. So I did not test and put in a refund for that, but I just put no, I'm going to manually enter those. You typically don't have a lot of refunds after all, because it's very one-off that somebody donates to a campaign and then be like, hey, just kidding, can I have that money back, right? Name format, first, last name's fine. It gives you a couple other options and commas and things like that. Does have the ability to auto sync. So this is, again, something that I didn't take the time to test specifically, but I'm usually a big fan of like, let me look at things before I sync it over to the QuickBooks data. And this doesn't have to be your finance person doing it. It's likely your finance person testing this a little bit more intently and then communicating to your development team that, like, yep, please just have it sync and I'll deal with it. Or no, if you could just validate things and sync it daily or weekly or whatever, that's helpful. So then as far as data mapping, so it maps at 3 levels, right? Is the product level, or like what is the service item in QuickBooks? And then the class, which is typically used in the profession as segmenting either specific fundraisers, or it could be like programmatic type stuff. Just general finance background, you have to do a functional statement of expenses for a 990 if you're larger than $50,000 annual revenue. And that means you have to segment your organization with fundraising, general operating or administrative, and your programmatic costs. You have to have those 3 buckets, but you can segment beyond that as well. Typically, we will segment programs if you have like multiple facets of the organization. Say you have a housing shelter and you do stable housing and you do basic needs things and you want to separate and look at those separately, we'll do subclasses for that. Around this and fundraising, I'm a proponent that I will do subclasses in fundraising if they are regular, consistent efforts that the organization makes. So if you always have a spring fundraiser and a fall fundraiser and you want to be able to trend that out really easily, I will create subclasses under fundraising for that. If it's kind of just one-off things, that typically, like, just again, we talk about the importance of clean data. When you have just kind of one-off things and you keep creating it for things, it just makes things ugly and it doesn't provide a lot of added value there either. Does that make sense to non-finance person? Summer, any questions with thoughts to that?
Yeah, no, that made perfect sense. Again, would recommend, just like you said, having your development or data person really working closely with your finance person to kind of define these things too, to make sure that your database is matching QuickBooks or whatever software you're using, because I think that's where a lot of the sticking points come in. Is like in your database, you might have what you would deem a class, but like in the database is just a bunch of different stuff, right? So like we've got this campaign and that campaign and this one and la da da da, and then it won't map over right. So definitely a lot of clear communication and definition around that. Absolutely agree. Is there anything that you would create a custom rule for? Or are you still getting to that?
Yeah, well, let's dig into that. So that I could see that for specific things. And I'll give you an example. And this will kind of go into mapping as well. So creating customer rules can be good if there are certain other data points that you want to make sure that you get your eyes around, right? Like, so if it's a restricted funding, if it's things like that, where you'd be like, yes, I really need this, have the custom rule to call it out and to post that potentially a little bit differently in your general ledger. I could see that. I could also see, and this can maybe go one of two ways, is like, if it's a check, I want it to go here because I need to match that into the bank. Versus if it's not, like it's done through an ACH transactions, we should see all those dollars hit right away. Things like that I could use custom rules for, I think.
Okay, very cool. And then I had one more question. If you could scroll to the top. So I was wondering what your recommendation would be for pledges. Would you do a pledge as an invoice then, and then kind of track it that way once it's actually receipted? Or I've never actually asked how it works in the finance portion.
Yeah, and answer kind of depends, right? So pledges, you obviously want to make sure that is in your donor management system right away to have it there, but have the ability to note it as a pledge. And if I recall correctly, we have that is built into Givebutter that you can put it as a pledge. But I don't think I saw a good like cash received subsequent.
So there's the installments, which you can download a PDF for each installment and edit the schedule.
Okay.
There's a payments history.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, if we talk about pledges received from, and we just paused for a second and kind of dug into things a little bit more off camera or off podcast for this, but it does seem like the functionality is there to put it as a pledge and then be able to track that eventual payment coming in with Givebutter, right? So this might be a good opportunity where I would use a mapping rule, and instead of posting that to where I'm going to talk about, I post it consistently here in what deposit account, I would try to make a rule to post that to an accounts receivable in QuickBooks if that functionality is available, that I know, hey, here is the pledge. We've recognized the revenue, but we know we don't have the cash yet. And putting it in accounts receivable keeps eyes on it to make sure that when the cash comes in, I'm pulling that in from there.
Awesome. And then a quick follow-up question, because I've had this come up before. I consider a pledge to usually be a multi-year payment. But I have had nonprofits that are like, oh, I put it in as a pledge, they're sending a check next week. What are your thoughts on that?
Wait the week, man, and just put it in when you get it, right? Like if it's that fast, why even put it in a pledge and do that? I've had other ones though where like this can be a little bit dicey too, where it's like, hey, we just got confirmation that this company is going to give us $2,500 for our thing. Can you make sure you note that and send them an invoice for it? Right? If they need to be invoiced, I would be good with putting in a pledge in here, and then you'd create an invoice in QuickBooks, or if you have a separate invoicing system. But then, like, if they end up not paying it, then you have to kind of like write it off, and that's a whole different thing. But so, like, if it is short term, you're going to get the money. Don't do a pledge. Just wait till you get it, right? But if it's longer term, then yeah, put it out there. Or if you need an invoice.
Is there like a time frame that you would recommend?
If it crosses a month end.
Okay.
So if you would get one, and we're tapering on April 1st, happy April Fools, everyone. I should have had something to mess with you on, and I didn't. Bad tape.
That would have been
fun. Bad preparation. Ugh. But yeah, I mean, if it crosses a month end that you've gotten, it depends. Like, how formalized is the pledge? Is it like an email say we're going to give this, or have you had a pledge agreement or anything like that? If there's any specific formalization where it's going to happen and we want to record it, I would do that. And then if it crosses a month end, that you have gotten a commitment to do that, but it better be like pretty ironclad thing, not a text from somebody, not like just an email like, hey, we're thinking of doing this. Yeah, that would be my preference.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then thinking about mapping this, so I was really excited about this. Is like, these are the products or service items that are set up in QuickBooks that you can then pick from, and a lot of these don't apply, right? Because I actually have this tied to a test customer that we use internally for reports and just testing out stuff and whatnot. So I had this map to donations unrestricted, just to have like, that's a typical one. Here's where you also might want to create rules, right? If you know there is a corporate donations and you split that out from individual, if it's a corporate account, post here. If it's individual, post in this account, things like that. What I was super excited for, though, is, well, let me finish the rest of this. So the class, we're using fundraising class. Again, you may have subclasses there. And then the deposit account, this is where things get sticky too. Undeposited funds. Are you familiar with this account? I mean, any use in this? No. Conversations in history? Okay.
Nope. Please share. Enlighten me.
Yeah, this is the account where it is like a holding place within the accounting software to make sure that you map bank transactions, actual dollars going into your bank accurately, right? So if you say if you map this directly to a bank account, let's say like a Spark Checking or whatever account, and each of them post there, but they don't post separate transactions, you post 5 different ACH transactions all in one thing. It is very difficult on the accounting side to be like, hey, that is really these specific records that came in that all comprise this.
Okay.
However, if you use the undeposited funds account in accounting, then you can do like a receive payment and it'll list all the transactions you put in there. So you could say, hey, we got a payout of this fundraising effort that we did. It's these 5 transactions. I can click on them. The individual records are there. It'll tie it to the amount. And then you put it in the software that it exactly ties to the amount that hits your bank.
Nice. Yeah, I experience a lot of that with like Stripe payouts, because I'll get a notification like, hey, you have $1,000 payout. And it's like, okay, but from who? And then I have to like go into Stripe and figure out like who it is. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I won't get into this, but like in accounting world, we'll even create a Stripe clearing account that'll be like, you actually post the revenue in there, and then when the payout happens, it actually goes in the bank account, and you do that. Follow me for more accounting tips, right? But that's why I would use this. Is it just gives you, it's actually an extra step on the accounting side, but it makes it easier to tie all the individual transactions to actually what goes in the bank, right? Nice. It is something, though, if you're in the accounting world, you don't keep up with this. There's so many times where we'll get a new client in there, and this is where the skeletons lie. It's like somebody's used the account, and they haven't managed it and looked at it and worked through it appropriately, and there's this ridiculous balance in there, and then you're like, oh, my God, all sorts of revenues double counted, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
That sounds messy.
Yeah, it's ugly, but all good. But the one thing I got super excited is so I've been here before, is like, oh, I want to put it into this service item. And I'm like, oh, this is a new campaign and I want to add this account, but it's not there and whatnot. If you would go into QuickBooks and add it, you can immediately refresh it here and it will show up. And like, kudos Givebutter, because there are ones that don't do this, or you got to wait 24 hours. And like, I'm doing this. I want to get it done. Let me do the thing, refresh this, pick the new one, move on with life. So I really like that.
Very nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's kind of the general setup. And again, I'm not unhappy about this at all. And I would have to spend like a lot more time testing all the things to be comfortable, but like really pretty psyched about the setup and options that are here. Then going back to this main integrations tab, here's where you list all the things out there, and I'm not automatically syncing, so I can sync all of these directly from here, right?
Okay, nice.
The other thing I don't hate either is I went and uploaded all this test data, right, to make sure that we reached our goal fictitiously in this campaign, or just, again, had them create something. if you show all the things that are not synced, right? So I did sync this transaction. I did another one yesterday just to make sure I could see things were ready to sync and I'd understand that and was okay with that. But all the other transactions had prior dates, so they are not syncable. So good and bad. Accounting person in me loves this because I have closed prior months. Don't even try to sync that because you're going to throw all the books off. In theory, good accountants should lock the books when they're done closing for the month, so nothing can touch it anyway. So that should be a separate control in place. But I also like this is like you can't go to prior periods and sync other things, but it also means that your development team has to, at the end of the month, log all the things, make sure it's in there, or you're going to lose the ability to sync it and may have to do some manual accounting things, which makes your accountant not happy.
Right. So let's say month end closed, the books are closed, but for some reason the donor a month later comes back and is like, hey, that was supposed to be for something else. What would you recommend for how to change that?
Don't. No. I think you just need first you yell at the donor and ostracize them so they never donate to you again and there won't be a problem. No, to me, it's all about communication, right? Like if you're then changing something in here, and again, something that we're not able to test all the things, but first of all, can you change it in here? Could you go into that transaction and do it? Or do you have to like refund it and back it out and put a new one in there?
Well, right. And that's what I was wondering, because if it's synced, that messes with the ability to do that. I feel like you can change the transaction itself. So I'm just going to pick a random one here, see what I can edit. Yeah, I can change the fund. So yeah, like I said, if you wanted it to be restricted or something like that. Yep, and the date, the campaign. Yeah, so I can make edits on this side, but yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Like whatever edits you make here, relay that to your accountant, because I from what I'm seeing, it doesn't look like you can resync something. So
correct, and I would not ask you to do that or like want you to do that as an accountant. So to your point, I would agree. First of all, should not be happening a ton, right? That somebody would come in after the fact and say this changed. So they should be one-off things, but just give that information to your accountant and let us handle the what might need to happen in the accounting for it. Because like good accounting or good nonprofit leaders and board members get numbers in their head, right? And if those numbers change when they see another report that goes out there, that's bad. So that's why we always lock it. And then any changes, even if it's 2 prior periods, we typically will make that in the current month. And if it's material or something that's going to raise a lot of red flags, just explain that to the executive directors of the board saying like, hey, this funder came through and said, hey, no, I want to restrict this $5,000 to whatever this is. We've reflected that here in March, even though that was a February payment, blah, blah, blah. But like nothing loses or kills credibility with your accounting staff than changing numbers versus what's been published and communicated to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say whatever communication, notes, documentation you have from the donor, please, please, please put that in the system so that if somebody is going in there and like, why did this change from general to restricted? You will have a note that says, hey, John Doe reached out and said he actually wanted this to go here. And I like to even put like a copy of the email. If you can attach a file or even just copy paste the contents, just so dates, times, all of it's in there.
Yes. And that makes us competent professionals, right? Having that history. And the same thing on the accounting side is you would want to make a journal entry or whatever you needed to do this and take that email, attach it in the transaction, put all sorts of notes in there if that's needed as well for context. Because when your auditor comes around and be like, hey, why was this change made? And they look at journal entries because it's the one way that you could theoretically make shady things happen in the accounting. Maybe one of the main ways of doing it anyway is they're going to want to see the backup for all of it. So like have all that information attached to the transaction. So when they ask you, you're not trying to dig back through emails from 12 months ago and try to figure out what happened.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I was just curious what is all included in the settings. Does that just take us back to that?
That was the page I went to here and just on configuring things. And again, we'll get to this more, but I like this. It's clean. It's easy. There's not too much stuff. that are here. Again, we'd have to play with rules and stuff, but again, I checked it out. It's very Boolean logic. If this, do that. If that, whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Cool. All right. I just want to quickly just jump into QuickBooks then and just see what this would look like and thoughts. So I did, let me go back to the transactions here. There was an easier way to get there that I failed at. And take this off. So here's the sync transaction that I put in for this $100 on March 18th in the test and all of this stuff. Jeremy is amazing and very handsome, of course. Yes, need those comments in there. Nothing to stroke my own ego. So then here's the transaction when it comes through in QuickBooks, right? Here is which customer it was. What I like, but what we need to be careful about, it actually puts in the Givebutter contact ID into QuickBooks too. Do not hate, right? Like if you tell me, again, anytime when you're dealing with a ton of data, if you have that one single joining field, that can be a godsend.
Yes.
Right? So I like that. But one thing you need to be careful of is like if you have this customer in there already, you would be creating a separate customer file. So just like we want to be good stewards of data records in your Givebutters and your other donor management CRM tools, you need to do that in QuickBooks as well, just to make sure you don't have a whole bunch of duplicates out there. But the rest of this came over, dollar amount, went to the right class. I actually didn't have that new account set up before I did this one, so it actually should be the donations unrestricted that would come over to. Then it also gives you the detail like, hey, it's sales receipt. You can actually go to this link and it will show you the transactional record in Givebutter, which again, love, right? Easily get back to the test transaction and they bring that information in. So I'd be like, what is this? I can easily go to this and then get your development person on the phone, any questions, things like that. So nice. Don't hate this at all. And then here's where deposited, undeposited funds, like I said. So again, like this, no qualms there whatsoever.
Is there anything in QuickBooks that would flag a duplicate for you and a way to merge them? Or how does that work? Let's just say that you did accidentally have Jeremy Van Grohl in Givebutter, but then also like, let's say you use something else for like online donations for an event or something, and he existed there too.
Yeah, you can merge customers. That typically goes well. Like any software, sometimes things seem to go off the rails. So that is an option, right? And if you were setting this up for the first time and you think like, hey, we're going to have all of these records coming through Givebutter going forward, I would take the old one and merge it into this one, right? So it'll bring all the data over and things like that. So yes, that is an option.
Okay, perfect.
The other thing that we didn't talk about that I think is also important just to think about is, do you want all these specific records in QuickBooks? So like QuickBooks is not set up to be a donor management system. And in theory, as long as you tie it out, you do not need to have the donor names and things like that because your system of record for that information is your donor management system.
Oh, okay.
So there may be arguments that this is overkill with all of these syncing. I'm guessing you could probably use that specific mapping or logic option out there to build like, hey, let's batch them and put them into one account versus all the things. But if it works this well and I can tie it out and whatnot, I don't have a problem with it having it all in there. I'm just not going to manually recreate it in QuickBooks. If it syncs well and like works through all the financial workflows, no problem with that. But I'm not going to sit there and manually recreate 500 donations on your fundraising weekends in here. Yeah. So just
right. Especially those larger organizations that have like thousands, right? You know, like the little online donations or the recurring donations or things like that. And I think that could be a lot to manage for the accounting team as well. I've always done it by batch. Like, okay, I ran transactions this day. Here's the total. And then I'll take care of the details. Here's the total amount for you and the payment details. But
right. And then also something to think about, which we brushed on, is like you are on the same page with how we're tracking this information financially. Like, are you splitting a corporate versus individual, restricted versus unrestricted, all that fun stuff. So you make sure fields are one-to-one, mapping is one-to-one, all of that.
Right. And even if like your board requests something specific to be tracked, just making sure that, again, it can either be grouped well or classed well or whatever. Everything's got to communicate with each other, or else that's where a lot of that manual comes in, and honestly, a lot of room for error.
Yeah, agreed. I just went into the audit history here in QuickBooks because I was curious. This is just tells you anything that's changed, right? So you can see exactly all the steps of it. And I was just curious if it was going to show that I added this or if it was by system administration or something. So me as the user that I was logged in, or probably the parent owner of this account, came on under me, but I know we have that with other clients where it's like we hook a system in and it'll either say system administration or say that I did this. And we all know that I'm not doing the things in there on most of our clients. So they're like, yep, just need to understand that that was how QuickBooks is relaying the information that's coming over systematically.
That's really good to know. Because, yeah, in different CRMs, that's what I look for too, is if it was done by an actual user or or the system administrator or system.
Yep, 100%. Cool. All right. We've done 3 episodes now on Givebutter, right? So just some final thoughts. So I'll let you start there and kind of chime in with my color as well.
I'd say overall, it's really clean, really simple, easy to navigate. I thought easy to set up. I mean, when we did the import, that was super nice, especially being able to just like, hey, reformat this for me. It's like, I can go read a help article or whatever, or go back and change it. But if you could just reformat it, that'd be great. And it did it. So that was really cool to see. Some things that I don't love. Again, we kind of mentioned the reporting. I wish there was a specific report module, which backtracking a little, there is. So like if you get Givebutter Plus, they have the reports, but I still thought they were pretty limited. So they have a Libunt, which is super huge in fundraising. That's last year, but unfortunately not this year. New donors, recurring donations, recurring donors, retained donors, top donors, and total transactions. So I went through and I kind of poked around some of these reports and I sent them to myself. And it just kind of felt limited. And depending on what you're using the report for, if you're presenting to a board or presenting to your development team or something of that nature, you're going to want it to look nice and you're going to want to be able to easily walk through what you're trying to tell them, right? So if it's, which it was just a CSV sheet. If I download a CSV sheet with the total transactions, I'm not walking through every single transaction with my team being like, oh, yep, here's one by one by one. So, yeah, I wish there was more like visual reports. I think those are super helpful for board of directors, fundraisers, or different programs if you're tracking certain things. So I felt like that was a little limited. The queries, because it's not really a query, it's more so just that little reporting that we saw. So either under contacts or transactions. Yes, you can say the segments, which is really nice, but it's nothing like your traditional front end, back end CRM management tool where you have the query option or those really kind of robust options. So again, great for simplicity, but if you have something robust or complex, you're either going to be doing pretty manual work or probably integrating another tool or something of that nature like Power BI. Yeah, other than that, the technical experience portion, they have the AI beta, which is super helpful for like the less technically inclined. So like we were saying, we can just kind of type in a question like, hey, help me do this, please. And it'll be like, oh, yep, here's the article or here's how you do it, which is cool. And then they have the read the guide kind of throughout the whole system. So if you're in a part of the system that's kind of newer to you or you're just new to the system itself, you can just click right on the link, which is helpful. But what did you think? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think we talked about it. Like the interface is good, right? It's like clean, it's easy, it's simple. I think we in a world where we want so many things to happen, like that gets jumbled up pretty quickly, and it gets just hard to be like, where am I and how does this work and things like that. And me being well into my 40s now, did not have a problem kind of going through and figuring out all the things. So I like that. I think too, we talked about like the platform fee, having that option, not like giving the option to the donor to cover that, but not charge it automatically. That's obviously a good thing for smaller organizations. We talked about some of the freebies that are out there, some resources. You said you requested those when we were talking here prior to this. You did say they're Google Docs that you had to request access to. I don't love that, but I mean, at least they're there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm still actually waiting for a couple I haven't been granted access to. So,
Okay. Yeah. Other positive thing, I think, again, the QuickBooks integration works well, right? And obviously, I didn't have thousands of lines or months of things to go through here. But again, easy to set up, actually happens. Once I hit sync, it was there right away. You didn't have to wait for an overnight or an hour refresh or anything like that. So I like that. Some limitations we did talk about, like you have to have a Stripe account to take out money. And so I was even going to like connect something. And then I'm like, oh, between our accounting firm, we have so many Stripe accounts already. I'm like, I'm not going to set up another dummy Stripe account to try to do this at this point. So yeah, that I think we talked to some limitation on the fields, right? Around, you said you have the custom option in there. So maybe that's a moot point. Some of it just seemed like there could be a little bit more there, which is kind of funny when they give you a sheet that has 100 or 50 columns on there already, that's not enough. But yeah, but other than that, and the one thing we didn't talk about that we didn't test, and I think maybe a good thing is like overall support, right? I would rather have a B plus tool with A plus support than an A tool with D support, right?
yes.
Like, because at some point you're going to need help with it. Something's going to go wrong. You know, just this morning, QuickBooks was down, right? For whatever reason, like 2-3 of my stuff, like we can't get to do anything. And I'm like, well, it's okay. And it was only short lived, but there will be issues with software. Having that support team is imperative. We did not like test that because I think both just time limitations, but also I feel ugly when we're just kind of kicking the tires to waste people's time to be like, can you help me figure out this fake transaction in this fake environment so we can make a better video? I don't know. So,
Yeah.
but they do have a chat option there. Again, we didn't dig into that one a whole lot, so that's kind of an unknown, but uber important when it comes to any software support.
Yeah. And again, from what I'm seeing, great software for small to mid-sized nonprofits. Maybe your first CRM coming from spreadsheets or coming from another more simplistic CRM that doesn't quite have as complex of a setup, because again, you'd have to remap things if you're doing a conversion. I don't know that I would love this for a nonprofit that needs kind of that complexity or that tracks things super specifically. But if you have like maybe a few campaigns and a few funds and it's really just basic and you want to do some online donation forms, I think it's a great option. Or if you are more of a complex nonprofit in your tracking, maybe it's just a great option for online donation forms or event forms, and then integrate it back into a more robust CRM for your reporting and tracking needs.
Yeah, and I think one of the integrations they had was Bloomerang, right? Is that they can pull that in, and Bloomerang definitely more expensive, but also has a lot more of that kind of reporting and tracking capabilities. So yeah, I think it was a good first one that we picked, though, right? I think
it's fun.
It's probably like one of the more popular options when you first are setting up like a formalized CRM donor management tool. Is that this is one of the first ones out there. And again, as a developing and growing nonprofit, you're probably outgrowing all your tools at some point, but probably can sustain this one for many years while you're developing and while you're just moving along your journey as a nonprofit.
Yeah.
All right. I think it's fun. That's what we got. I know we're trying to get some contacts to come in and talk to us. I think we need to maybe say that we're cooler than we are or something. I think a lot of it too, we just need to get some of these published to get them out to people and see that we're providing out good information. So we may circle back and get somebody else on here. We do have a guest maybe in mind to get with us that I probably been going to drop on summer, but the conversation will continue and we'll see where we want to go next time as we talk all things donor management and financial management on all the uncharted territory that we haven't covered yet.
Which is a lot.
Which is a lot, right? Cool. All right. Thanks everybody for joining us. We will talk to you again in the next fortnight.
Bye everyone.